All right, people. Here I am with the Green Bay guy, Ben, episode number 50.
If I could get comfortable in my chair here, I'm like sliding all over the place. All right, I think we're good.
So here we are. This is podcast episode number 50.
50.
And this may be the last one. It may not be the last one, but for now, this is it.
No, I think this is it. I think this is the last one.
So, Ben, I think this is an important question to ask to start us off here. How has the whole process been from podcast to the page? Let's enlighten everyone and talk about that.
Yeah, it's been cool, man. I don't know. So when I first started it, I never had a plan to do a podcast. I never had a plan to now, transition to video. I honestly just wanted to help people who are coming to Green Bay. And I never once thought that people would care or have an idea of like how much people were going to just like reach out, and how the relationships that I've built with people since starting the page. I mean, there's so many people, I can't even name them all. People like, Corey in Australia, Mark in Florida. We got Tim where is Tim? He's in Ohio, I think, Cincinnati. Katie in Iowa. Obviously, I'm leaving off so many people because I talked to so many people. Robert in Texas, and there's way too many to name. But I've made such good connections with so many people that I never thought about when I started the page. I never once thought that it was gonna blossom into anything that it has. And then the podcast was all secondary, in the sense that I didn't think I'd be able to hear the cool stories that I did. Like, I thought I'd hear cool stories, but I never envisioned that I would sit down and talk with players, or that I would talk to like Roy Mellemans, who got punched by Lombardi. It's just when you're starting this, and for anyone listening, like, I think it's just go out and tackle something, or try to do something, even if you don't know how it's going to go or how it's going to be planned, because I never thought that any of this would have transpired the way it did, just off of an idea. And while everything I've done hasn't been successful on the page, like, everything's been rewarding enough to the point where I'm happy I did it. I don't know. I just rambled on for
No, that's good.
an hour.
I think that's what people like to hear. So I know you mentioned some of the names of the people who you've interacted with.
Mm-hmm.
Would you say that's so far been the most fulfilling or rewarding part, is having those connections, hearing some of those stories, and knowing that you wouldn't have ever really connected with these people if it wasn't for what you've done so far?
Yeah, I mean, there's been people I've had on the podcast that it was like an instant connection from the moment we sat down and started talking, that now, I mean, like Corey in Australia, we Snapchat every single day ever since like that podcast. And without the podcast, he might have just interacted a little bit with me on the page, but now it's like legit. I feel like he's a friend of mine, and I'm excited for him to come to Green Bay because I want to hang out with him and take him around town. And without the podcast, like, without those types of things, it definitely wouldn't be as fulfilling. And like, the players were cool. Like, the players were cool to have on, but the players didn't feel that same level of like bond as like other fans, because to them it was probably like a job. Now, like, Dwan Harris, he was awesome because he was just like, he's retired. You remember Dwan from the stadium and stuff. He was just always a cool dude. And Oren was awesome. Obviously, Chris Jackie was awesome. Don Beebe was cool. They're all cool in their own way. The thing with the players, and not Dwan by any means, but with the other players, I felt like I was on a time crunch more. With fans were excited to tell their story. It wasn't I was burdening them. They were coming to me and wanting to tell their story. So I was very honored. Like, I get to be the one that asks the questions. I get to be the one that shares the story. So that was very fulfilling.
I guess what's some of the feedback you've gotten? I know from just like Facebook and stuff like that, but I guess in relationship first to just the podcast, I know you get feedback from the people who you've spoken to. But share some of that in regards to what the people have said about, sharing their stories and what they've gotten from hearing other fans' stories.
Yeah. I think it was Maggie that said it best. Was it Maggie? I'm pretty sure it was Maggie. But she said anytime there's a podcast, she wants to know their Twitter, because after listening to them tell their stories, they felt like they immediately knew the person and wanted to interact with them more or follow them on Twitter and know them more. So, people just love telling their story. And, I'm enjoying this right now. I'm usually on your side of it where I don't get to ramble as much, but people love telling their story. And people they're excited to tell others that their story is going to be out there. It's just a cool thing. I think everyone has a different path they've taken, and people are excited for people to know their paths that they've taken along the way, especially in fandom. Even if they're not Packers fan, or the friends of the people aren't Packers fans, it's still like they like hearing the stories, and because everyone's got cool stories. And everyone lights up when they tell their story, because it means a lot to them, and they relive. I remember your episode number 1. Episode number one. I remember talking to you about the Basement Crew, and you can just see the person start glowing. Now, not on the phone. The phones are a lot harder to do, or Skype, and that's mainly why I want to transition this podcast, because I want to do more in-person video ones, because there's just another element to it, and the vibe is better in person usually. Sometimes people on the phone, you have a good vibe and you just absolutely knock it out.
So a couple of things I took away here. One was your comment you made about really just encouraging people, if they want to try something new, to do it.
Yeah.
You might fail at stuff. You're going to fail at stuff. Mm-hmm. But the experience is what shapes it into what it really is.
Absolutely. So a lot of people don't know this about me. Some that know me personally do. I had a skateboarding company before. I had it for about 3 years. I lost probably $3,000. Failed miserably, crashed and burned, especially when I moved to Green Bay. But I wouldn't change it at all. I learned so much from doing it. And the same goes with this. This podcast, I wouldn't call it a success by any means. It was successful to me in the sense that it was fulfilling and I enjoyed doing it. But it wasn't successful by metrics. Even the player episodes didn't get that many. I think you're one of the top episodes. Adam O'Connell is one of the top. I think Adam's the top episode. But so from a metric standpoint, it wasn't really that successful. But from the people who listened week in and week out, they loved it. Some people are pretty bummed to see that it was leaving, and part of me is bummed. Part of me is excited for new opportunities, because it's tough to find a new guest every week that has a different enough story that it stands out enough.
Right.
And as a listener, some of the feedback I've gotten, going back to your kind of, you talked about feedback a little bit. Some of the feedback I've received is it's tough to know what you're getting into when you come into an episode, because you have an episode with you and we have that good rapport, because obviously we were living together at the time. So obviously we had that good rapport. We've known each other for a long time. And then you transition to another episode where I don't know the person, and there's a big age gap, and we're just not on the same wavelength or that same vibe, and the episode's off. And so it was tough to ride that roller coaster for people who listened week in and week out, because you don't know what you're going to get. So those are kind of some of the things I'm looking to adjust and change going forward. I don't think that answered your question.
No,
at all.
that definitely did. I was trying to remember my second question or comment, and from being a listener, and I think
number one.
Episode number one. But I think your comment of being able to like see the person glow or know what really makes them excited, and to kind of dig into that memory bank and talk about those special Packer related experiences. That's what made me as a listener excited, because I could relate to those special experiences, whether it's watching a game with the basement crew, going to specific games, meeting players, relationship with Pepra. I mean, like that stuff, knowing other people have similar but different connections is what makes me feel connected to some other episodes and some other people who share their stories with you.
What do you think was the biggest drawback to the podcast?
I know we've talked about this before. I just think it's difficult to, like you said, get something new week in and week out, and to have people comfortable and just kind of telling their stories. Like, yeah, there's Packer fans all over the world, but to get people to tell those stories and then to keep that base of people listening, it's difficult.
Yeah.
I mean, it depends on really who you have that follows your page, which you have a wide variety of people. But it's different, I think, in this day and age, and what people will listen to, what they choose to do in their free time or when they're driving, whether it's listening to a podcast or not. I just think there's so many choices out there.
It's a good point.
And I know we've talked to it. It's difficult because I feel like a lot of other Packer podcasts, and I know you will agree with this because you know more about them than me, is they like to talk more about like the current Packer, news, whether it's free agency, games, what have you. And you decide to do something different that no one else is doing.
Yeah, and that's why I didn't want to go that route, because there are so many people that do it at such a high level that, like, I'm not going to compete in that market. I love Packers and I love talking Packers, but man, I'm not up to that level of a lot of other people when it's talking about like breakdown of schemes and breakdown of coaching abilities, and I'll give my opinion, but I'm not a coach. I'm not built like that, I guess. I can spit facts at you. I can spit dates and random things, but I'm not going to be able to like, oh yeah, and cover 2, I just not. So that's why I wanted to do this route.
And I think a lot of people enjoyed it.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. I got to hear a lot of cool stories.
And those stories are now always going to be available, right?
Yeah. Yeah, they're not going anywhere. They'll still be on the website. They'll probably get hidden a little bit more because right now they're on the homepage. I'm going to be restructuring my website just to kind of showcase more of what my game plan is in the future and what I'm looking to do. But, I had to sit down and do this episode because I got so many people that were like, I want to hear your story. I've heard all these other stories. I want to hear your story. So I was like, all right, well, we'll do episode 49 and 50 of my story, or just episode 50 or whatever. I don't know how long we're doing this. I know. I don't know if we're hammering out 1 or 2, but.
Well, I think this is a transition point to start talking about some Packer stories and get some details in regards to some special moments that you've had with not interactions with people from the podcast or your page, but more, I guess, going back in time. And
there's a random piece of paper in my shirt. I have no idea what's going on. Yeah, I'm sorry.
But yeah, going back in time, and let's talk about some of the good stories.
Yeah. Where do you want to begin?
What do you think? Training camp?
I gotta keep it traditional.
I think we should.
No, we gotta keep it traditional. The podcast. Like I always ask 2 questions first. Where are you from? And how'd you become a Packers fan?
Well, people.
Gotta Gotta keep
Ben,
it.
where are you from?
Yeah.
Is this in your bio?
I don't know if it is or not. So I'm originally from Menominee, Wisconsin, which is about 4 hours from Green Bay. Moved to Green Bay 4 years ago. And I should elaborate. This room is quite empty right now because I just bought my first home. I close a week from tomorrow. By the time this podcast comes out, it'll already be done. But Wade currently lives in Pennsylvania. He's here visiting this week, and I was like, hey, Wade, I need you to interview me. No one better to interview me. And you and I had already done an episode together.
That we did.
That was just audio right before you were moving away, but I decided I wanted to do a video one.
Yep.
So, but yeah, so that's where I'm from. And then how I became a Packers fan. So it goes back to, man, I don't know how old I was, 4 or 5 maybe. It's probably 1995 would be my guess. I was probably 5 years old. And I was living in Minnesota at the time. When I was really little, we lived in Minnesota for a brief period of time. I wasn't born in Minnesota, but we lived there from when I was maybe like 4 to 8. I don't know, not too long. And my mom took my brother and I to the store to get our first jersey. She presented me with 3 options. She presented me with a blue one, which was the Dallas Cowboys. The purple one, which was obviously the Vikings, and then the green one, which was the Packers. And my favorite color is actually blue. So I looked at the jerseys and I was like, boys don't wear purple. That's an easy one. Like, that's a cut. I'm surprised I didn't go blue. My favorite color is blue, but I was like, that number 4 jersey, that one's all right in my book. So then I got that. You know what's weird? I don't remember watching games, but I know I was a fan of the Packers because I had a Cheesehead. I had my Favre jersey, and I remember Super Bowl 31. My jersey, it was the old screen print one. Washed it and dried it so many times that it was like streaking.
Mm-hmm.
Like the nameplate was like wearing out. The numbers were wearing out.
You could just peel off.
Yeah, you could just strip them off.
Yeah.
But I remember that being so worn out, and I was wearing my Cheesehead during Super Bowl 31. That's the first moment I remember, like, looking back, watching a game. And then I remember watching Super Bowl 32 and not being as happy.
Yeah, I was only 4 years old for Super Bowl 31 and 5 for Super Bowl 32. So
yeah, you probably don't even remember Super Bowl 31 at all then.
no, but I remember my dad had the VHS tape, and I'm not kidding you. I watched that, I would say, comfortably over 200 times. Like, full game. Commercials were already fast forwarded through. So
did he just record it VHS himself? Like,
yeah.
Did he just like Super Bowl party? Hold on, everyone, stop! I gotta pause it.
You know, I should probably ask that question, but I'm surprised that I didn't like just wear that thing right out because I watched the game so much.
Does he still have it? Jimbo still got it?
Yeah. And then he had Super Bowl 32 as well, and I watched it once, and I had never watched it again.
I'd be curious to watch it. I haven't watched it since it aired. I'd be curious to watch it again to see how well or poorly the Packers played in certain aspects and how well or poorly the Broncos played in other aspects. Because those games you just put away and you don't do anything with them. Like, in your mind, you just put them away.
Yeah.
Like the Seattle game or the 49ers game, those painful losses, you just put them away.
Yeah.
Don't even deal with. I think I'd be more okay with Super Bowl 32 than, say, like the NFC Championship game, because I was so young at the time that it feels so distant. But I'm sure it's probably still not a fun game to rewatch.
Maybe I should get the VHS tape and bring it back. Watch it.
We'll go live on Facebook Live and have a nice viewing party for Super Bowl 32.
Ooh, I don't know how many people would be into that. I guess after the season we had this year, might as well just let it roll. But what I do remember from Super Bowl 32, watching that VHS tape one time, was I think the Packers really had some bigger plays, some good moments.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, the Broncos played really well as a team. And I think one of their main strategies was to shut down Leroy Butler.
Makes sense. Well, and Reggie was hurt that year.
Mm-hmm.
He played in the game, but like he had a serious injury that was supposed to like sideline him for the rest of the year, and he came back like 3 weeks later. But he wasn't the same Reggie White as like before the injury.
Yeah.
So that was part of it. And then Terrell Davis just ran all over the place.
Yeah, they gassed our defense.
Yeah.
I think in the first half, Terrell Davis didn't have a whole lot going on.
No, I think he got concussed. He got knocked out of the game early and came back, if I remember right.
Man, I can't believe we're just talking about this right now.
So depressing.
Oh, tough. So what's next, Ben? I mean, you usually run these podcasts.
Yeah, you're the.
What do you want to
we
transition
got the start out of the way now.
So now it's
Where
just
it's
free
open.
game.
It's open. Free game.
It's free game.
Yep.
Well, let's tell a good story. Tell a training camp story. Tell a game story. Whatever you want.
Tell a game story.
I know you're.
You got to be more specific. You're leaving this door open.
Hey.
Well, training camp story. I mean, that's where you and I met.
Yeah.
Was training camp.
Good times.
Those
were like.
God, I don't even remember how that went about.
You hate to say the good old days, but
yeah.
Gosh, fun.
I don't remember how that went about though.
I think it had to have been like Steve Tater, someone that we both knew. We somehow must have bumped into each other or connected.
Either that or I know we were both on Twitter, quite active at the time.
Yeah.
And I think we tweeted at one another or you introduced yourself to me that we follow each other on Twitter or something. I think it was something like that. I don't think we had any outside influence. It was just like us running into each other.
And then we connected at Lambeau, right? At training camp after we had previously connected on Twitter.
Yep.
And then we found out, okay, we both just love the Packers. We love the whole experience of meeting players, autographs.
Yeah, and then we just started hanging out more at Lambeau. And then the 1 year you came up here for like a week for when I first moved here. You came up here for like a week for the training camp.
It was hot.
We had such a routine. Every single day we'd get up super early, and we'd get up super early, go to training camp, try to hammer out some autographs, and then when they went to practice, would watch it for a little bit, and then would come back, would crash and take a quick nap, and then would head back to the stadium to wait it out all the rest of the night.
The good old nightcap.
Yeah, like that was a fun week.
It was.
That was a good time. You know, and we did it a couple times, and then you ended up moving here. I'm trying to think if I have any like. When you say training camp story, it's so open that I can't think of anything specific. I don't have anything crazy like you and your Josh Sittons at training camp anyway. I honestly can't think of anything. I mean, training camp has always been cool. Training camps always felt like a family reunion. You go there and there's so many people that you like and you only see once a year, but every time you see them, you're like, man, it's great seeing them.
For me, that's always like when you get to see Kurt.
Yeah.
I know you sometimes see him more when he comes in for games and stuff, but it's like, that's when I get to connect with Kurt a little bit.
You got Kurt, you got Cameron, you got Joe, Kevin last year, Steve, the owner, man, I'm forgetting so many people. Adam. How do you forget Adam? Like Adam's
Stacy.
Yeah, Stacy. I mean, there's so many awesome people that you're just like, I'm so happy to see these people every single year. And now as I'm getting older, I don't enjoy the autograph side of it as much. Mostly because there's way too many people there and the people are obnoxious and I don't want to be in that same group. But man, it's just great seeing those people and just hanging around them. And I think that's what I like most about being a Packers fan and living in this area is I get to see people and we're like a family just because we cheer for the same team. Like if not for us being Packer fans, like we wouldn't know each other and you wouldn't have lived with me and potentially live with me in the future. And like, it's just weird how we're just talking about it tonight, how that can shape your whole course of your life.
It really can.
Off of one thing.
Yeah. And how many people that really the Packers have influenced, whether it's moving to Green Bay or what have you.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy.
That is crazy. Interesting. I wonder if I should tell one of the questions I get asked a lot about Desmond Bishop, like how that whole transpired.
I was gonna ask it, so you already opened that.
I was waiting for you to ask it.
You already opened the can up, so might as well talk about it.
Yeah. So for a lot of people on my page probably don't know, but I used to help Desmond Bishop with marketing. And I say that loosely. I don't think I was ever like, I mean, I helped him where he needed it, but I didn't do anything like super insane for him. I would help create an ad here or help at his events. So back in 2009, before he was a starter, I'm trying to think what order this went in. I played him in Madden. This might be even 2008 at this point, right when I joined Twitter. I played him in Madden on Xbox Live. And I talked to him for quite some time. You know, obviously playing him in Madden, you're playing a whole game, you're talking to him. And he was such a cool dude. And like, kudos to him because I was asking those stupid questions. You know, when you're a younger kid, like I was quite starstruck. I never talked to a professional football player. I never met one at the time. Like I said, I grew up over on the other side of Wisconsin. My family's all Vikings fans except me. So, or I should say like my dad and my brother, both big Vikings fans. I had never met any players, let alone talked to any. So here I am.
That was your first interaction with a football player?
Yeah, that was my first interaction with a pro football player.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and I don't even think I had started collecting yet. Like I literally was just like, I was a Packers fan. I had like a Ryan Grant jersey, but I wasn't like a fan like I am now. So I was playing him in Madden, and I was, you know, you're asking all these stupid questions, and I was so like dumb. I remember like, oh, have you Lambeau leaped yet? Like, he's like, no, I was pretty much a rookie the other year, and I haven't gotten any playing. Like, he didn't answer it like that, but he was like super cool about it, and I was just like bouncing off all these, just you're looking back on it, just dumb questions, but I'm sure questions that he probably got asked a lot on Xbox Live. So I got off Xbox Live. He crushed me the first game. Just dude was doing defensive adjustments like you wouldn't believe. I'm just like, what the hell's going on? I had no idea. I couldn't read his defenses or anything. But I got done and I was like, man, that was really cool. What a cool guy. What a cool guy to take that time. And so not too long after that, I had a friend over and we're drinking a little bit. This was obviously before I was 21 because I didn't drink when I was 21. I don't really drink now ever since turning 21. And we're drinking a little bit and I was reading like Chuck Norris facts. I was a little tipsy and I was so influenced by Desmond being cool that I was like, I'm going to just start saying them about Desmond because his user tag or his Twitter, his Xbox Live gamer tag was like Beastie Bish. So like, I'm like, oh, he's a beast, you know? So I started doing Chuck Norris facts at him, but instead I was like changing them and he really liked that. And this was about the time where this goes back to our earlier conversation of like, if you don't know how to do something or you're worried about how it's going to turn out, just do it. Because one morning I got up, I don't remember why, but I got up and I was like inspired. I was going to build a website and I was like, I'm going to just build a website for Desmond. So like literally it's like probably 7:30 in the morning. I don't know why the hell I was up so early, but I'm like Googling how to build a website and I find like Wix.com and I build this terrible website, like the worst website ever, like so bad. And I buy the domain. I think it was Des Bishop 55 or Beastie Bish 50. I buy some domain and I like make this website go live. And yeah, so I found out my camera after a half hour decides to, I guess it stops. So we'll have to just do half-hour breaks. See, good to know. You learn stuff. Anyway, so I wake up one morning. I make a Wix website, Terrible website. Just absolutely terrible. And I don't remember what. Oh, I guess I'll tell the whole thing. So Matt Ramage, down the road, Desmond and I are talking, interacting quite a bit online. And Matt, just showing how far back we go. Matt one day is like, "Oh, you guys interact so much on the podcast or on the Twitter. You guys should just follow each other." And so he's like, "Oh yeah, I'll follow the homie." And so then Desmond followed me, and then we kept just communicating there on Twitter for a while. And then I remember trying to think the chain of events. He became starter, and the playoff game against the Eagles where he had the Deshaun Jackson hit, the ball fumbles, no, he tackled Deshaun Jackson, not fumbles. He did the shoestring tackle. Yeah, the shoestring tackle. I was watching Charles Woodson highlights today. That's what made me think of that. But he did the shoestring tackle, and I remember I was so hyped after that game, like adrenaline rushing, that I tweeted at him, and I was like, "Yo, Dez, like, would you sell me those gloves?" And he goes, "Sell them, bro. You can have them." And so then he mailed me his gloves, and I was like on cloud nine. When I got them in the mail, dude, I drove. So they tried attempting to deliver them at my house, and I wasn't there. Like, I was just gone. I went to the store, came back, missed them, or somehow I missed them. And so I literally called them that night, drove all the way to Eau Claire, which was like a 30-minute drive, because I did not want to wait for the next day. Like, I told him it was like something urgent, that I needed that package, and like pulled some strings essentially to get that package that night, because I was like, I need to have these. I can't wait another day,
Those are from the playoff game?
No. So they're not from the playoff game. He sent me a pair of game used gloves, not from that game.
I was gonna say, I didn't know that.
No, I don't know what. I should try photo matching them sometime. I don't know what game they're from. They're not from the playoff game.
I think you wore the same style gloves though, pretty much every game, right?
The playoff game, he's not wearing those gloves.
Okay.
So I know they're not from the playoff game, but they're hard to spot. So I buy his jersey. Because I was like, oh no, I have it backwards. I already had his jersey. I just bought his jersey because I got his jersey. I wore it for the first time for that playoff game. Mm-hmm. So I wore it that playoff game and all the way through the Super Bowl run. So like immediately once they won the Super Bowl, I'm like, I can't wear this anymore. Man, I'm so bad at telling this story. I'm all over the place on it. But I remember I was working a factory job right after the Super Bowl. I decided to enroll in college for marketing, and I was working a factory job, and I was thinking of like marketing from a marketing standpoint, what, like, if I could do anything more for Desmond. I know I built him a website and he was using it, and God bless his soul, because that website was terrible, like I said. And so I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh, Bishop. Just thinking, and I'm like Bish, please, like, just to play on the bitch, please. I'm just gonna do Bish, please. So I made this shirt from the cutout of the game, his first start in 2008, doing that stretched arm out after he had a sack against the Texans, and I photoshopped that nicely. Not even Photoshop, or like the paint. I like erased everything and really carefully so it looked nice. And I put Bish, please across the bottom. And I messaged him, and he's like, dude, that's cold. Like, that's awesome. So I ordered a couple. I sent him one. I sent one to me. It was a pain in the ass because I didn't really know about copyright infringement at the time. So every time I tried ordering one, it'd get shut down because they're like, oh, Packers logo, you can't do it. Mm-hmm. So finally I find this like knockoff site that made terrible shirts, and they were okay with it, and so they sent one to me and sent one to Desmond, and then honestly, his wife, joined Twitter, And that's where it all blew open because she like followed me immediately. I think she followed Desmond first and me second. And like come to find out at the Super Bowl, he was doing interviews about me, talking about the Desmond Bishop facts. Like all of his family, I started getting all these bishops following me because he was telling his family and telling these stories, and I was doing them around that time. But then Gita joined Twitter, and her and I were like talking all the time. And then it was like, well, why don't we, you know, you're going to the Christmas game, we're going to the Christmas game. Why don't we sit together? And we got, I got a gift from someone of a skateboard with Desmond Bishop on it. It was a custom one, and Gita wanted one. So I ended up getting one for Gita. And so we go to the game, we exchange tickets because I had already purchased tickets. We exchange tickets. She gives us ours so we can sit by her. And I'm walking back to my car to go tailgating, and she calls me and she's like, oh, what are you doing after the game? I was like, oh, we're just going to go back to the hotel. And she's like, well, if you want to, we're going to be hanging out in the players lounge afterwards. Feel free to join. And I'm like, yeah, I'll be there. And so it was the Packers-Bears game, Christmas 2011. We sat like 50-yard line, row 2. Good game. It was cool. To be honest, probably one of the Packer games I least remember because I was talking to Gita and just getting to know her, and you know. And then we went up to at like halftime. We like went up into the booths and like whatever. You know, we didn't sit in our spots. But then after the game, we're walking and we go to the like spot where you go to the players lounge, and there's a bunch of security. And she just walks in and they're like, oh, hey, Gita. And she's like, yeah, they're with me. So like they all just like split.
No questions asked.
No. And we all just we go downstairs. And I was like, there's pictures everywhere. No photos, no autographs. Like on every wall, there's multiple signs. No photos, no autographs. And literally we sit down at a table. There's coolers all over the place with like free Coca-Cola, free beverages. They had chefs making smoothies. You could go up and say, I want this fruit, this, and they'd make you a smoothie. And they had a buffet of food. And I'm sitting down. I had a Coke, and I'm looking around, and like Sam Shields and his whole family sitting at our table. And I go to make a smoothie or get a smoothie, and I walk by Clay Matthews and his entire family. And then I'm like, look, and every time you look around, you see someone new. You're like, there's Donald Driver and his whole family. There's Aaron Rodgers talking to Mark Murphy with his family and his brothers. And you're just like looking around, and there's just like all these larger than life figures, these people that you're just seeing on TV.
Yep.
And now they're all around the room right now, just hanging out with their families. And you're like, this is so cool. You know, and then where Desmond was the like last one out because he had a hamstring issue going on at the time, which he battled a lot of that during his career, but he was getting a lot of work done. And we're sitting out in the lounge, like broke off into the separate area where they have the real Super Bowl trophies. So the ones in the Hall of Fame aren't the real ones. The real ones are down outside of the locker room. Every once in a while you'll see a player post a picture of them. Like they're 4 and whatever. So I'm sitting there looking at those, and someone almost runs into me, and I like adjust, like getting out of the way, and it's Nick Collins. And he's like, oh, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, no, you're good, man. And then we're talking a little bit, and he's like, oh, so rude of me. I'm Nick. And I was like, yeah, dude. Like, I know who you are, man. I've been watching you, and then I didn't actually say that, but I was just running through my mind. I'm like, oh, Ben. And then he's like, sees Gita. He's like, oh, Gita, how you doing? Like, just like they just start talking like they're old friends. Oh, what are you doing for Christmas? Oh, you can come over, So we're doing that. And I think it was a night game, but I was probably at the stadium until 1:30 in the morning. That's when Desmond got out. And so he came out and he gave me his cleats. Not from that game, but he gave me cleats from the Tampa Bay game. But I was at that game that year, so that was pretty cool. And then he drove me back over to my car. So that's just one of the many stories that like Desmond and I've had the pleasure of like getting to know Desmond now over charity events. And when he was in Green Bay, I helped him with a bunch of charity events. I went out to California with charity events, but I always like telling that story just to tell how generous and down to earth him and Gita both are, because they're just such amazing people. And you remember from training camp, getting his autograph was so easy. Like, he always signed. So much so, here's a fun story I forgot. So it's one part of that story. It's 1:30 in the morning.
I knew you were going to come back to this.
We're coming out of the stadium. It's cold. It's Christmas. Well, now it's the day after Christmas because it's 1:30 in the morning. It's freezing out. We walk out, and I felt like I was going to get in trouble by being in the players' parking lot, even though I was with the player. That's just where my mind was. And I hear someone go, Desmond. I'm like, what the fuck? And I look around, and there's one guy standing at the fence. Desmond's car is the only car in the entire parking lot. One guy sitting at the fence. Desmond. And Desmond goes, what the fuck? Just says it to us. So we get in the car. Desmond pulls around, signs for him. Like, have a good night. And, Desmond drops us off. But he was always such a fan-friendly guy in that sense where you could get his autograph anytime you wanted to, and it wasn't even a challenge. But even still to this day, I have so much Desmond stuff signed. An insane amount of stuff. But I'll never get rid of it. Like, those
are your memories.
That's like, I still have my Bishop jersey framed. My Super Bowl jersey from the first time I met him.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Definitely. Especially this stadium experience and the players' lounge.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely one of my favorite stories that you've ever told me.
It was a cool one, and I feel like it all came full circle a couple of years ago when Tony sold me that Desmond Bishop jersey. So Tony sells me a Desmond Bishop game used jersey, and I end up getting it. I stole it from him. We talked about that in our episode together. I stole it from him. I mean, I got it for like nothing, probably like $275, but it meant way more to me than it'll mean to anyone else. And come to find out, it's from his first career start, which
Houston.
Yeah, it just goes full circle. And so now in my living room, right now, currently anyway, until I move and it's in my Packer room, I have my game used Desmond Bishop jersey, which I sent to him to sign.
Which is a story in itself.
Yeah. I guess we'll have to tell that one. It's not as long of a one, but it's a quick one. But so I get this jersey. I'll just tell it now. I get this jersey and I reach out to Gita and I said, hey, actually I didn't even have it yet. I said, hey, Gita, I might buy this jersey. If I do, can I pay you or can I pay Desmond to sign it? And she's like, you're not paying us. You can send it to us. We'll sign it. No problem. So I end up getting it. I mail it to them. And, oh man, poor Gita and Desmond. Like, I was so paranoid the entire time.
Yeah, you were going nuts.
I was like,
I would too.
I'm frugal too. So like me spending $275 on that, like I don't spend money like that anymore.
And more so what it is.
Well, yeah, and the value of it. Like, I was so scared that it was going to get lost in the mail.
That bothered you the rest of your life if you lost that.
Yeah, because you can't replace it.
No.
So he gets it. We confirm he gets it. I can breathe a little bit. And so then she's like, okay, a little time goes by because they're busy people. And so she texts me one night, all right, we're signing it. Like, what do you want him to put? And so, like, he put game used, his stats, the date, first career start. He threw on the Bish please, signed it. And like she sent me pictures of him signing it, videos of him signing it, pictures of him holding it, like holding it up, and sent it back to me. And now I have it in my living room with a picture, the picture that I used in the Bish please shirt, right next to it. And it's from that game. So it just goes full circle.
Full circle.
So it goes back to, even if you don't trust your abilities, even if you don't know what the fuck you're doing, and you have this gut instinct to do something, just do it. Like, you're going to look back on it and later and be like, oh, like, yeah, it sucked, or it wasn't as good of what I could do now. But man, if that doesn't happen, if I don't do that,
the rest never happens.
nothing else happens.
Life advice here, people.
The dominoes don't fall.
And think of how many of those dominoes fell over the years.
Yeah, because then I got to meet Noah Pepra. I got to meet Donald Driver. I got to meet Aaron Rodgers. I got to meet all of these people because one domino fell. Like, it's still like mind blowing just thinking about it now. And now I'm in Green Bay. Like, does any of this happen if not for that?
Might not.
You know, I probably would. At that time, I was coming to Green Bay a lot, but you never know. You never know how the dominoes fall.
It's an awesome story.
Yeah, it's a long
And I know there's not many people that we know that have connections with, I mean, in this case, former players that you have. I mean, I think that's pretty. I think
yeah,
that's
you and
pretty
I
special.
both have them too, which is the funny part. And that's why you and I became such good friends, I think, because my favorite player was Desmond. Yours was Pepra. They were good friends. And so it was almost like we had to be good friends to fulfill the prophecy.
Be wrong if we weren't.
Yeah. And then it all just went full circle on it. I don't know. Just crazy. What else you got?
Bish, please.
Bish, please.
I just love those stories, especially the Players Lounge one, and just that experience. I think a lot of people who are going to be listening, watching this, are going to really enjoy that.
Yeah, Gita told me not to tell that story, so I hope she doesn't mind that I told it now.
Well,
I mean, I've told it a lot. What are they going to do? Yell at her?
at this point,
I don't think she gives a shit at this point. I think at the time she just didn't want me like bragging about it on social media, which I never did. I don't think it's a big deal.
yeah.
Maybe if they're currently with the team or something, then maybe it'd be more of a, I don't know. Yeah, I owe so much to Desmond and Gita and Desmond's family. Like when I went to California, man, they treated me like I was family. It says so much about the upbringing. You know, I flew up to California, helped with their football camp, loved every second of it. Got to stay with a lady that I met off Twitter, actually named Jen. I think she was a retired school teacher at the time. Her and her husband let me stay out there. They picked me up at the airport. Got to see Kurt while I was out there. He was at the football camp with us, and we did all of that. And then I get back to Menominee, and Desmond's parents sent me a thank you card for coming out. And I was just like, man, that's so cool. I probably still have it, to be honest, because I was like, that's so cool. You know, it just shows that he was raised right. You know, he was raised in a good family, and his brothers are awesome. And it was a cool experience. I'm thankful I have it.
And like we talked about before, it's the memories.
Yeah.
Like that's, hopefully never lose those memories.
No, I'm already getting old. I'm already losing them.
We're getting kind of.
That's why I got to do this podcast.
We're getting kind of scattered brained, and we're not as sharp as we used to be.
I just ramble now. That's all I do. I'm at the old man tangent.
Yeah, we're getting old.
I'm the old
Need
man
some
tangent.
coffee here to get our get some control in this thing.
Yeah.
So you've been living in Green Bay
Mm-hmm.
for quite some time now.
Mm-hmm. We got about 7 minutes before the camera shuts off again.
All right.
So let's see how this question goes.
Well, so you've been in Green Bay now. You've been in this apartment for over 4 years?
Just about 4 years. 4 years in March. I moved in March of 2015.
And you are going to be living in a house.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. I know a lot of people are excited for you.
I think a lot of people are excited to have a place to crash when they come to Packers games. Yeah. Well, and it goes back to, there's people I've met on the page now that I met them in person out here, and I've extended a hand dude, stay at my house for a Packers game. You're always welcome at my place, because I don't know. I probably shouldn't say that, but
everyone's welcome.
Yeah. Everyone's
just show up.
Just show up. No, but there's just people that you can tell that they're genuinely good people.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, yeah, you're more than welcome at my house anytime. Anytime. Like I told Corey from Australia, I was like, yeah, dude, you're welcome. Haven't even met the guy. But I was like, yeah, man, you're welcome at my house. You know, I don't know where I was going with it, but oh yeah, you said that it's exciting.
It's exciting. So
Yeah.
I guess my question is, you've been here now for a while.
Mm-hmm.
We went to Lambeau tonight because I've been living in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
And we talked about once you live here for a while, which I lived here for a while
Mm-hmm.
with you before I moved to Pennsylvania. Just like anything in life, you get kind of used to the change. You get used to, in this example, you get used to living close to Lambeau Field.
Mm-hmm.
It's a 10-minute drive or wherever you live in Wisconsin. You know, it's not going to be too far. And I guess unless you're in Menominee or
Right.
wherever.
Yeah.
But with you being so close to Lambeau for the past 4 years,
Mm-hmm.
and you're going to continue to live in Green Bay, how has it been from when you first moved here to now in regards to, I don't want to say your excitement or stuff like that, because when you first move here, it's like, oh, I can go there every day,
Mm-hmm.
and you do that.
Mm-hmm.
And then now it's like, okay, you go there when you feel like it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to say it's not as special, but it loses something, right?
Yeah. So that's a good question. I mean, since I moved here, so to put some context on it, before I lived here, and you and I were talking about this a little bit tonight, before I lived here, whenever we'd come for autographs or come to a game or come to Green Bay in general, you hype it up so much. I'm sure it was the same way with you.
And right away, I'm thinking of the story about showing up for training camp, and you're there at like
Oh yeah,
3 in the
I
morning
can
or whatever,
definitely- yeah.
throwing the football around, and security's like,
Yeah.
what's going on?
Yeah, I'll definitely I'll tell that. That's good. I forgot to even mention that. So you get so hyped up. You get so excited about going to Lambeau Field that you're just like, the whole drive as you get closer, the anticipation's building and building and building. And then when you get there, it's like, we're here. When you're here already, it's not that it's not the same. Because I made a pact that when I moved here that I wasn't going to take it for granted. When I go to Lambeau Field, I take a picture like every time I'm there because I'm like, I'm at Lambeau Field. This is like 5 years ago. If you had told me that I'd be living in Green Bay, I'd be like, no way. Like that's once again goes back to the like, if your gut's telling you to do something, do it. Because my gut was always saying like move to Green Bay, but it's like, well, all my family's over here. You know, but then I'm driving back I was driving to Green Bay in the 2010 season. I went to 7 games that year. I was driving to Green Bay like every weekend, and I drive there and back in one day.
That's a grind.
Yeah, and you know that. You know
Especially
that
after
grind from-
games, and
yeah.
it's just like you're drained.
But yeah, you put all your energy into the game, and now you're like, I got to drive back 3.5 hours, and there's drunk people out driving all over the place.
It's not ideal.
No, I saw so many people. My friend Natalie and I were coming back from a game once, and I had to call 911 because this drunk guy was just literally just doing an S in the middle of the interstate, and I had to call 911 on him because I was like, this dude's gonna get someone killed. And then of course he turned off and whatever. But so that story just kind of prove a point on how it works. My friend Travis and Dakota and I were going to training camp one year, and Travis, Dakota, and I went to training camp every year together for a while. And we're at Travis's house. It was the night before. It was probably 11 p.m., maybe 10 p.m. And we're trying to go to sleep, and we're laying there. We're like, all right, we got to get up early. We're laying there, and we're just all, you can just feel the excitement, you know, and everyone's like, okay, like we can't sleep. And so one of us jokingly goes, should we just leave right now? And I was like, fuck it, let's go. And so like we're like, really? Like, so we all just like literally get up, pack up our stuff, throw it in the car. I'm trying to think what social media was popular then. I want to say it was like Instagram, because I think Travis posted something on Instagram. I mean, Instagram's still popular, but yeah, and so literally we just left at like 11 p.m. from Chippewa to go to Green Bay. We got there at like 2:30 in the morning. Only car in the parking lot.
And this is for the opening of training camp, right?
Yeah. So like excitement at all time high. And we have a football and we're throwing the football around and we're running routes. And I pull out my skateboard at one time and I'm kind of skateboarding around in the parking lot. And then security's down in like immediate, like, so he comes down. He's like, hey guys, you can't be skateboarding out here. And we're like, all right, sorry, we're just rolling around. We weren't doing anything. We're literally just rolling around. He's like, oh, it's no big deal. What the hell are you guys doing here? And we're like, oh, we're here for training camp. And he's just like, it doesn't start for like another 5 hours. Like, what do you, like, people don't even start arriving for another 5 hours. We're like, we couldn't sleep. So like the thing I remember most, which is the most random thing, Dakota being like, I think he was a college kid at the time or what. We're all kind of poor at the time. He had like a cooler full of like lunch meat, like bologna and bread and cheese and like mayo or whatever. And he sits down on the asphalt. It's like 3:30 in the morning. He sits down in the asphalt of Lambeau Field and makes himself a sandwich. And he's just sitting there eating a sandwich that he just made from all. It's just like the picture of Dakota sitting with like I don't know what the hell, cross-legged or what?
Making a sandwich.
Yeah, well, yeah, just making a sandwich. Just such a funny thing. You're just like,
and that's stuff you won't forget.
No,
like those images that you have in your mind. It's like, okay, the whole probably training camp that day, and like all of those, like, you know, all the stuff that happens is great. But you go back to those moments you share with your friends.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you a single autograph we got that year.
See,
I mean, really.
So really, the trip and the memory is the excitement.
I remember by about noon, all of us were quite
gassed.
We're quite like at each other's throats because we're all fucking tired. You know, Travis, I remember Travis was really snippy and like Dakota and I were getting on his nerves bad. Understandably so. We're all exhausted. And like, I think Dakota stayed at the stadium the entire time and I went back to take a nap, and I think Travis came back with me. And so like that helped a little bit, but then later that night, then Dakota started getting cranky because he stayed and he was in the sun all day, and like that was not a good start to the trip. That was the only downside of it. I felt like it created like a rockiness to the trip right away because we're all like on each other's nerves from the start. But we obviously had a great time and it was a blast. And but yeah, looking back, that's what I remember. Don't remember a single person's autograph I got, but that's what I remember.
I can totally relate to the chippiness and when you're out in the sun all day and you don't sleep. Like even like the most calm and cool, collected people that you're there with, that just wears on you, and you can just hit that point where it's like, I need to just take a nap, or I need to just disconnect from these people because it just becomes too much.
Yeah. Well, remember when we were trying to get Julius Peppers autograph that one day?
That was
so
wow.
We each bought a Julius Peppers jersey. And well, I should rewind because at the start of the camp, we found out, that's a story for your podcast, but we found out Peps was at
the real Peps.
Yeah.
Charlie, not Julius.
Charlie. We found out Charlie was interning for the Packers. And so that's your story. Go listen to episode 1 to hear Wade's story on that. Episode 1. But we're talking to Charlie, and no. That was his second year. That was his first year of being hired on. I got my no, Gypsy. That was a nice Borat reference. I got my years mixed up, but so we're there and And Pep sees us and like pulls over. Remember, he like hard slammed on his brakes, pulled over to see us.
Pulled around next. Yeah.
And he's like, "What's up, boys?" And when he's talking to him, and he goes, "Oh, who are you guys trying to get this year?" And when he explained, we're like, "Yeah, we bought Pepper's jerseys. We heard he's been signing a little bit. We want to get him signed." You remember what he said to us?
I think he said, "I got you."
Yeah, he said, "If you don't get him, I got you."
Yeah, that's what it was.
And so we're like, "Well, Charlie, we're pro autographers, you know.
Just give us another day or two. We'll get
this.
it.
We'll get this." And that day, we literally sat out. It was the hottest day of the whole thing. We sat out from had to be like 7 a.m. to whenever they left. I don't even remember when they left,
But I think we bypassed a bunch of other players' autographs because we were just watching for Peppers.
we were focused. And then it was probably like 5 p.m. It was like later in the day, and Peppers went out the other door,
Yeah.
and we missed him.
And we were just cooked from the sun.
And I remember we stopped at we didn't have anything.
Oh, the best drink we ever had in our life.
But that whole day we didn't have food, we didn't have water, we didn't have anything. So we're like hot, thirsty, hungry.
Tired.
Yeah, we went to that Quick Trip right by Lambeau Field, and that I got a Snickers ice cream bar and a Gatorade,
Yep.
and that was the greatest thing like I ever had.
See, and when we talk about this and we talk about that training camp, like one of the lasting images I'll always have, and it's funny, it's not really player related. Like I remember Pepra coming up and that, but like the most clear vision I have in my head is you with that Snickers bar and just like saying like, this is the greatest. And it's crazy because I've been to Lambeau with some of my other friends like Tony and stuff, and we've done the same stupid thing where we don't eat or drink anything all day, and then we drink something. It could be 6, 7 o'clock at night, and like I remember my friend Tony's face too, and it's just like he died and went to heaven.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, just if you want to really appreciate something, just go without it for the whole, like put yourself in that extreme condition, and then you'll appreciate everything.
I don't recommend it though. It's horrible.
I don't know. I don't think, it's not fun. It's not fun, but think about the times where you go out to the stadium or you go out to do autographs and it's freezing, like absolute miserable cold. And like when you get in the car and you go get like a hot chocolate, you're like, this is like bliss. This is amazing. I don't know. I just think you appreciate it more when you go through the rocks a little bit to understand it.
Yeah, and some of the autographs that you get from those harder experiences, I think you remember those a little bit better too. And the players appreciate you, and this is stupid to say, but like they appreciate what you're going through, or the time that you put in. Especially like when players go in early in the morning and they're like, I'll get you on my way out, and you're like, oh, okay, well they say that lots.
Yeah.
And then some of them actually will come over and sign for you, and they're like, well, you hung around here all day. It's like, yeah, we're nuts.
Yeah. Or I don't remember who it was, but we're out there when it was super cold one day. It was like a Thursday of an away game. No one was there. It was freezing. And someone came out and goes, "Man, what the fuck are you doing out here?" And I was like, "I'm here to see you." And he laughed, came over, signed, and like was just like hyped that I was sitting there waiting for an autograph. And I don't know. I mean, as I get older, it's like not as I don't do it nearly as much just because it feels weirder now. But yeah, this is always fun. And going back to Charlie though, Charlie hooked it up. We reached out to Charlie and he called us slackers or something like that. Remember, he like gave us shit about because we couldn't get him to autograph it, and so then we gave him the jerseys, and like a day later he gave them back to us, which is far better than the 8x10 I sent him.
Yeah,
I sent him an 8x10 for anyone listening. I love Charlie now. He's always been a favorite player of mine just because how he's interacted, and I know a lot of people didn't like him when he played for the Packers towards the end, but that made me like him even more because you like an underdog. And I sent him an 8x10 and I never got it back, and I was like, okay, cool. This was probably in 2012, something like that. 2012, probably 2011 maybe. And like a year and a half, 2 years ago, he messages me random on Twitter, keep in mind, we follow each other now. I have his phone number, and he direct messages me on Twitter and says, "Hey, I have this package here from you. I want to return. What's your address? Is it still the same?" And I was like, "What are you talking about, Charlie?" And he sends me a picture of it. And it's like my address from like 12 years ago, from like 2011, 2012. So I tell him the new address, and I was like, "But man, you can just throw it away if you want. Like, I have tons of your autographs. I can come get it anytime. I can come pick it up from you." And he's like, "No, I already got some stamps ready. I'm gonna mail it out." So 6 years later, I got my 8x10 signed by Charlie Pepra.
Never say never.
Yeah, never say never. Yeah, so it's been cool. I don't really know where I'm going on this whole tangent, but
I don't even remember my first question. I think it was about.
I think it was
Oh, it's about living in Green Bay.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah, man, it's been cool, but I don't ever take it for granted. Like I go there and I'm really appreciate being there, and that's why, like, with my page, helps put it into perspective. People on the page, like, remind me how lucky I am. You know, I'm from Brazil. I really want to go to a game. I'm from Germany. I've only been to one game. You know, I'm from wherever.
Mm-hmm.
You know, well, like Tomer. Remember Tomer
yeah.
from
doing the live streams?
Yeah, from
and the trivia.
Israel.
Trivia,
right? Israel?
too, right?
Yeah, I think so. But I think he's from Israel. I'm pretty sure he's from Israel.
Can't remember.
But like Tomer's like, "Yeah, I want to go to Green Bay," and it's just like it really helps you put into perspective of, like, all these people are wanting to come here. You know, like Linda, who I think she's from like the New York area. I don't remember where she's from, but you know, she'll be like, "Oh, when I come to Green Bay, I want you to give me a tour." And I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely." Anyone reaches out to me, like, if my schedule aligns, I'm cool to do so, because I appreciate people, and like, this is my city now. Like, I feel happy to be here.
Green Bay, Wisconsin.
Green Bay. Love it.
Well, that was good.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
I think everyone will enjoy that as well, I would hope. If not,
Yeah, probably not. They're not listening anymore. They shut it off like probably 25 minutes ago.
I think there's someone there.
No, just that one person.
Yeah, we'll have to. I might end up watching this like 20 years from now. I'm like, oh, here we are.
Looking good. We'll still be living together. We'll be living back together at that point.
We'll see. See what the future holds.
Yeah.
So what's next? Should we talk about one of your favorite games that you've been to?
Oh, man. I've been to a lot of games.
I know you have your display of all the ticket stubs, and that's impressive.
Yeah, you know, I've been to a lot of games, and a lot of them are awesome for different reasons. So my first ever game, I didn't go to a game until I was 20 years old. Viking fan family. We didn't grow up with a ton of money. Like, it's not like we went and did those types of things. So my friend Tom, which I don't know if Tom's listening to this. I know he listens to some of the podcasts. I hope he is listening to this. So this year's our 10-year anniversary of our first game. And so we're setting up another one. We're setting up we're going to go to a game together, 10-year anniversary. Let's rally. And by rally, because we're both going to be in our 30s at this point, rallying for us means just probably like talking about us working at Arby's together.
I was going to say, are you going to relive the story about telling get some fast food before the game or after
get some
the game?
Hardee's? Yeah, that's another reason why I started this page. You're going to get me on that other tangent. But yeah, we were like, oh, we want to go dine like a local. And then we ended up going to Hardee's. So
dine like a local.
Yeah, we dine like a local. Now that Hardee's isn't even there anymore. So that was an awesome game. It was like Packers versus 49ers. Beautiful weather. It was like 40 to 50 degrees. Perfect weather. We had 50-yard line tickets, like 45 rows up. Great game, close game. Packers won. Downside, Al Harris and Aaron Campman both tore their ACLs that one game. And so both Tom and I are like, oh, I
remember that.
Do we even come to another game ever again? We're bad luck. And so we're leaving. This is the best part of the whole thing. We're leaving the game. Traffic all over the place. It's a nightmare. And so we have the windows down a little bit. And we're waiting in line, and this drunk guy comes by. Hey. And so like, look, you want some pizza? And he just has like this pizza box of pizza. And it had a bunch of nasty stuff on it, so I didn't have any. But Tom's like, yeah, I'll have a slice. So he rolls down his window. The guy sticks the whole box in the thing. Tom just grabs a slice of this pizza. Just, thanks. And just the guy's like, hey, no problem. Just keeps walking. And so like that's one of the things that will stick out to me for the entire game. Like,
see, that's another one of those interactions where it's not even about the game.
No, it was so stupid.
It's about you with your friend and that random person with the pizza.
Yeah, it was so stupid.
It's those memories.
So dumb. So I'm excited for 10-year anniversary. That's going to be an awesome opportunity. I'm hoping it comes to fruition. And yeah, it's been a long time since Tom and I hung out, so it'll be awesome.
That'll be special.
But favorite game I've ever attended. I don't think I have just one. Some that come to mind. 2010 season, I went to 7 games that year. One that I really enjoyed was the Packers versus Vikings in Minnesota. So the night before, I get a phone call from a friend. Hey, do you want to go to the game tomorrow? And I said, well, how much? There's someone here at the bar selling 3 tickets for $90. And I was like, $90 a piece? No, $90. And I was like, are they real? And she goes, yeah, they said that they're supposed to go to the game tomorrow. They're driving tonight and they hit a bear and now their vehicle's totaled. So they're just trying to scrap and get whatever they can. And I was like, yeah, I'll take them. So my brother, who's a big Vikings fan, and his friend and I ended up going to the game.
$30 a piece.
Yeah, last row of the Metrodome. Literally the last row. There was no one behind us. We didn't give a shit. I got to see Brett Favre play first time in my life in person.
Yeah.
These Vikings fans were all talking a lot of smack. You know, they're a year removed from being in the NFC Championship. We barely beat them in Green Bay. Like, we're in their turf now. Like, it's going to, they're all like, talking mad shit. And if you remember, the game was a blowout. The Packers dominated.
Big difference compared to the year before in Minnesota. Where Brett was just
Brett killed
fire.
Us both games.
Yeah.
But this year, it was just different. So it was like second quarter. The Packers are really extending out.
Jennings had a hell of a game, right?
Huge game.
Yep.
And James Jones had that crazy catch.
Yep.
So Jordan, the guy that was with us, is a big guy. He's probably like 6'4", 6'5", and he's big all around. And the Viking fans in front of us that were like kind of shit talking, Jordan takes the game day pamphlet because they give everyone game days there. Unlike Lambeau Field where you have to buy it, but they put them on the seats. Everyone gets game day. So he takes this game day pamphlet and he starts doing the Vikings horn every time like the Packers do something. Like it's a blowout at this point. Just like, just like all to them because everyone knows how obnoxious that horn is.
Yeah, the worst.
And they go to turn around to say something. They see how big Jordan is and they just basically turn back around. Yeah, and they ended up leaving in like the third quarter. And like Jordan and I were just like, just celebrating, and then my brother's just sulking. And then to really top it off, like a week later, 2 weeks later, the dome collapsed from all the snow.
That was the year.
Yeah.
And then Minnesota had to play University of Minnesota.
Yep. Yeah, so that was the year until they patched it up or got it fixed or what have you. But so like that just brought it like inner peace to me. So I really like that game. And then that year, week 17, Packers versus Bears, win and get in. I went to that game with my friend Natalie, and it wasn't a high scoring game. I think the final was 10-3.
Yep, I believe so.
No offense. It was so cold. That was probably the coldest I've ever been at a game.
I think someone on Twitter recently, someone asked a player, what's the coldest game you've played in? And I can't remember the player, but
yeah.
It was that game.
That was the only game I actually went inside during halftime because we're in the outdoor club seats. I went inside to warm up because I couldn't feel my feet. It was bad. That was bad. But what really stands out is Nick Collins' interception, dagger, and the crowd just went electric. And going outside and just that electric, I haven't felt anything like it since. And I've been to playoff games. Like the crowd was electric. Like we just beat the number 2 seed.
Yeah. Atlanta was number 1, right?
Yep. To squeak into the playoffs. Now anything can happen. And looking back on it, I think it's just that much more exciting knowing the outcome. We snuck in. We beat the Eagles, the Falcons, the Bears, Steelers, Super Bowl champs. So that one was really awesome. And I've seen a lot of awesome ones since. Packers, Bears, 2014, when Raj threw 6 touchdowns in the first half.
I was there too. And then he didn't even play a second half.
No, I think he played one series. And then it was done.
I think they were really moving the ball and they didn't score and they pulled him.
Yep.
If they would have let him play that whole game, he would have scored 10 touchdowns.
Yeah. And then the Packers-Giants game, playoff game, my first playoff game. I got to go with my girlfriend, which was really cool. It was our first game together. I got free tickets for my work. And then it was the Hail Mary game where Raj threw it to Cobb. Yeah, so that was a cool
playoff game?
Yeah.
It was too.
Yep. Because the offense sucked that first series or that first half. And then the Cobb Hail Mary deflated them completely. It was almost like it went full circle like 2011 Giants. They did a Hail Mary on us before halftime. And then that was just kind of the opposite route. And obviously we didn't go on to win the Super Bowl like they did, but yeah. So those are some of my favorite games.
Well, shared some great stories.
That's been fun, man.
Great memories.
I think we could probably do we could have probably did 8 of these in a row, no problem.
Yeah, if we really sat down and thought about all the different stories we had beforehand, you could crank out a bunch of these podcasts.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure you and I combined could just...
Because we're just kind of spitfiring here and just whatever comes to mind.
Yeah, it was kind of a last second thrown together, testing the new camera, seeing the new thing. So just kind of talk about what I got planned in the future a little bit. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but...
That's not in the script, though. I don't know if we can do it.
Fuck the script. So at my house, I'm going to have an office where I'm going to have more setup, or if I want to do podcasts in this sense. I have some other videos that I'm planning. It's going to be a lot more YouTube is where I'm looking to go, which is why I bought this camera. Just try to put out more content like this, get more people involved. If, someone wants to come over and I trust them enough to come over and do a podcast. I know I've met a lot of awesome people. So if anyone wants to come over and just bullshit and do another podcast, I don't think I'm going to do solely Packers related podcasts just because I feel like it's such a dominated market. But I think I'm going to just do a random podcast and have a random conversation and see where it goes, because I think you can get a lot of value from talking to people and just seeing where things go. So obviously it's all very raw right now and very tip of the iceberg, high level thinking. As I move and transition and get ready and figure out where I'm at, obviously that'll change too. So I'll hammer out more details, but definitely more to come this year, which is pretty exciting. Obviously not this podcast, but on to the next one.
I know you can't tailor your podcast to what everyone on your page may want or may request of you, but I think it'd be interesting to see what other people may want from you in regards to a podcast. I know we've talked about recapping games if I were to move back here, and I think those would go really well.
Yeah, I don't know if those would be podcasts necessarily. Those, to me, I think those are more just video content where the Friday before, if we really want to, we could just talk about the game. The Monday after or Tuesday after, we can talk about the results of the previous game, where I wouldn't put those on SoundCloud. I wouldn't put those on iTunes. Mm-hmm. I'm just trying to think of something we can talk about Packers football. We could talk about other football. We could talk about anything under the sun if we really want to. We could talk about saunas up in the UP. Saunas up in the UP. You know, we could talk about whatever we wanted. And I think that would be more authentic. You know, there's a podcast I listen to a fair amount, Joe Rogan Experience, where he has guests on and they just kind of go where the conversation goes. And it's usually pretty interesting stuff. You get into some deep thought stuff, and some people will like it, some people won't. And so we'll see. Nothing's set in stone. I'll continue to keep pivoting where I see fit. You know, who knows? Maybe one day in the future, if I get a bigger following on here and I get enough demand and I can find more stories to do, maybe I knock out another 50 of these in the future. Who knows? We'll see where it goes. But right now I'm just excited to do something different and try a new endeavor.
Exciting.
Yeah.
See what comes of it.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's time for some thought-provoking questions to end this sucker.
Yeah. Keeping it on pace.
So I think I have a couple good ones.
Okay.
And the first one is going to be this. And I don't think you've ever asked anyone something quite like this, because we like our hypotheticals, Ben. I know when I was living here, we would just kind of go down these rabbit holes of hypotheticals. When we go to Lambeau, we talk about, oh yeah, Rodgers is going to come out and
throw us a dime.
Yeah, and all this crazy stuff that will never happen. But I think this is a good hypothetical, and this is what I've missed the most, I think, living here. I know we text sometimes and Snapchat and stuff like that, but say you were a professional football player.
Oh, I have the talent for it, so.
You have the skill set.
This isn't far off.
You have the body. You have the mind. If you could put yourself on any Packers team, and here's the thing, Ben. I don't care if you were a good player, if you were a star performer, third string, whatever. What team would you want to be on and to live through, to experience the full season?
It's a really good question. I would say one of Lombardi's Packers. And it's not because of the success that they have in the season or the championship, but because of his coaching and him hammering home so much. So many of those people went off to be successful on their own outside of football. You know, Jerry Kramer, author, Fuzzy Thurston, entrepreneur, Max McGee, entrepreneur, Paul Horning did a bunch of stuff. Willie Davis did a lot of stuff. I mean, all of these people went on to become millionaires in an era where you didn't make millions of dollars playing the game. And so it's because Coach Lombardi taught them the right mindset to have, and winners never quit. And once you quit, it's a habit, and you can go through all of these things, and you know what, the man on top of the mountain wasn't placed there, you know. So these habits and these mindset that Lombardi set, I think would make that be my answer, just because he's going to set you up for life for success.
So you'd be on the team at training camp and get your ass handed to you?
Oh, yeah. I would hate every second of it, I bet.
But I think just like all the players that went through it, you come out in the end a better person, and you have that experience that you could never replace.
Yeah.
What do you think of that question? That was pretty good.
That was good. I wish I would have had that one for previous episodes.
It just came to me.
I wish I would have had it.
Okay. Question number 2.
Yeah.
We're going to stick on the hypothetical.
Well, we're pros at them.
Yeah, we're going to stick on the hypothetical. So, say you are the general manager of the Packers in, let's say, 2008. Or let's say you're a big influencer. And
2008.
2008 through 2018. Okay? 10-year stretch.
Okay. I have no idea where you're going with this one, but
you're intrigued, though.
Yeah.
I think everyone who may be watching is intrigued.
All 3 listeners.
If there was one move that you could make or make sure would happen during that 10-year stretch, whether it's signing a free agent, re-signing a player, something like that, what would be, I guess, one move or one player, whatever, or maybe even draft wise, a player that the Packers didn't draft that we could have drafted, what do you think would be something that you would have done differently?
There's a laundry list, I think, there, but it's all easy now to be like,
It is.
well, I would have taken, Hopkins instead of Dayton Jones. The one thing at the time that I was sure of is that they should have re-signed Cullen Jenkins heading into 2011. That's the one thing I wanted them to do, because Cullen Jenkins was such a force for us on that pass rush. And you lost part of that. When you lose that pass rush, then your corners and safeties get worse. And our defense in 2010 went from being one of the top to in 2011 being the worst in NFL. And I don't think it's any question that Cullen Jenkins was a big part of that. So as much as we could talk about like, oh, instead of drafting this guy, I would have rather taken this guy because I can see now that that person's a Pro Bowler and ours wasn't, I think that's the answer I'd go with.
That's interesting. I mean, Cullen Jenkins, looking back, especially 2010, I mean, he was in his prime. He was a force to be reckoned with.
Mm-hmm. And he was getting older too, so I understand maybe Ted Thompson's like, hey, he's going to want a long-term contract coming off of this. I don't feel comfortable giving him a long-term contract. But at the same time, it's tough because you lose that pass rush and we didn't add anyone to replace it. Okay, well, now you just got worse. And that's not a knock on Ted Thompson. I personally am a big Ted Thompson person because I'm a homer and I appreciate everything he's done. But he was really conservative, so.
Where did Cullen end up going then? Was it the Eagles?
I couldn't remember if he went to the Eagles before or after. New York? Did he go to New York at some point in time too?
I think so.
I think he jumped around a little bit afterwards. I don't think he ever did a ton. But sometimes guys fit in certain schemes better than others, so.
Absolutely.
You know, and I think a Super Bowl success often makes teams worse. There's guys that are hungry that are no longer hungry. They've been on top of the mountain, and I think Mike McCarthy's probably a product of that. We saw it this year where it's just like the message gets stale. What do you do? What do you do when you've been there? What do you do when you've won it all? Yeah, you want to do it again. You've done it. You want to do it again, but you're not as hungry. You hear that all the time from people that once they make a ton of money or once they achieve that goal, that they realize that maybe the goal was different than, or maybe they want something different than what they actually have, or, I don't know. I don't know where I'm going with that, but
it's all good.
It's getting late. I'm getting tired.
Okay.
I'm rambling. No, I'm not saying to hurry up or anything.
No, I think I have one more question, and this isn't more hypothetical, but it's future thinking.
Okay.
So this is it. This is the last question.
Last question ever.
So, Mark Murphy.
Yeah.
Came in. Packers won a Super Bowl in 2010.
Mm-hmm.
Aaron Rodgers. We'll go on as one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
This year, fires Mike McCarthy. Hires Matt LaFleur to take over the team. Titletown District, that's something that he really led.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless of how Matt's tenure as a Packers coach goes, the rest of Rodgers' career, how do you think Mark Murphy will really be remembered? Do you think no matter how, I guess, good or bad the Packers are for, say, the next 5 to 6 years, the Titletown District and what that may be or it may not be, I guess the success of that, do you think that is going to, I guess, really be a big influencer on like his legacy? That's a really loaded and kind of drawn out question.
It's a good question though.
It makes me think about the future of Green Bay.
Yeah, I think it depends on how his career ends here. Because I think that's really how, like, everyone hates on Mike McCarthy. Everyone hates on Dom Capers. Everyone hates on Ted Thompson. I remember a period where people are like, Dom Capers might leave this team. Ted Thompson might leave this team. And they were like worried about it. So I think it's how he ends. Now, he's not in a good light for a lot of fans right now. A lot of fans don't like Mark Murphy. And understandably so. A lot of people think he's focused too much on these other areas rather than the Packers. Mark's trying to set this team up for success long after him.
Mm-hmm.
A Titletown district, a cheap place to bring your family, which is then going to turn into revenue for the Packers. That's setting your team up for success. You have the money to do it now. You can't do a stock sale to do it because it part of the NFL rules. I don't think they'll allow it because it's not directly the
into
football.
the stadium.
Yeah.
Or the operations.
He has the money. Not only that, but like Microsoft's getting involved. Titletown Tech. Like Green Bay is going to be a place where people can get investments into their business for tech. Like this goes beyond the Packers. This makes Green Bay a much more serious city for a lot of people. A lot of people already think Green Bay's a joke. Like, oh yeah, of course they sell out every game. There's nothing else to do in Green Bay. Well, you start doing this and bringing more to Green Bay, and now it starts being more of a serious city. Maybe not to a lot of people, but it's going to get people in Green Bay. It's going to get people going to Green Bay who live half hour away, and they're going to come over because that football field's free or the playground's free or sledding hill's cheap or ice skating's cheap. They have all these other games, you can walk around and enjoy outside for free. And one thing I'll say that not a lot of people give credit for is handling the Brett Favre divorce. Now, a lot of that was Ted Thompson, but he was a new president. That was his first year handling that divorce. Whether he did it the right way or not is up for debate, but he handled it. They lived through it, and honestly, they came out looking better after it was all said and done. So people are going to hate him. People are going to love him. It all just depends.
I guess I probably worded the question a little wrong in regards to, I guess I didn't want it Mark Murphy focused, but the future of Green Bay.
Oh.
And you know what I mean?
Like tied to the Titletown district?
Because of Mark Murphy and the Titletown district, no matter how the Packers perform, the next 5 years, 10 years, I guess who really cares too much about Mark Murphy's legacy, but
gotcha.
The future of Green Bay, if the Packers are good or bad, based off of.
So I kind of shotgunned it though.
You did.
Right? I did a spread. I just covered all.
And that
answers.
got me thinking more.
Yeah. So I think that's great for the future of Green Bay. You and I went out there the one day to check out the field, throwing around the ball, and some 12, 14-year-olds come up and ask if we want to play flag football. And there's a sense of community there now. Kids are out there playing with each other and throwing, I was getting torched by a 14-year-old who was taller than me and faster than me, and then every Wednesday there's a rugby league for the future of Green Bay to not only have that community spot where you feel safe, everyone can go and hang out and have fun. And then now there's big businesses and apartments and it's really going to be turning into something crazy. I'm excited to see, but it's going to help Green Bay blossom more and grow. I'm excited for the angel investors to be investing in tech companies in Green Bay. Who knows? Maybe Green Bay could boom as a tech industry now rather than a blue collar industry.
I mean, look back in the 1950s and 60s, no one ever would have thought it'd be where it is now. So I'm curious to see where things will be 5, 10, 20, 50 years down the road.
Did you hear about the guy with the TitletownTech.com domain? Some guy had the TitletownTech.com domain. He bought it not long ago, wasn't doing much with it. And the Packers tried buying it. They offered him $5,000 for it, which is a great price for a domain you bought for $12 and you're not doing anything with. And he found out it was the Packers that were trying to buy it. And then he wanted, he countered with season tickets for the rest of his life for this many seats and this amount of money and something outrageous, insane. And so then the Packers lawyers basically just put up a good case why, much like a celebrity can, but why they deserve that domain
Mm-hmm.
and the judge awarded it to the Packers. Basically just took it straight from them. So I thought that was interesting.
That is interesting.
Poor guy. I'm sure the guy who owned it, I mean, I'd be pissed if I bought it and I owned it. But then at the same time, if I'm negotiating, I wouldn't go from $5,000 to now wanting $1 million worth of stuff. So
It is what it is.
it is what it is.
Well, I'm excited to see what's in store for this upcoming season. Just like any season, I think you just never know, right?
Yeah, you never know.
The mystery of Lambeau Field, the mystery of
The magic of Lambeau Field.
the magic. Yeah, I messed up. Wow.
Yeah. It's getting late. And you
But-
can't even ask any more questions.
I can't.
You already-
because I
you
already
already
said it's the
hyped it
last
up.
one.
Yeah.
So I think with that, we have to give a Go Pack Go and
Go Pack Go. I do want to say, if anyone is watching this still, because I'm sure I'm going to split it up into do 2 episodes with this, but if anyone is watching this and you email me, thegreenbayguy@gmail.com, email me what you think of the video setup, or doing video podcasts if you watched it. If you didn't, just email me that you listened to the whole story. Give me some feedback if you would. If you do that, I'm going to do a drawing or a giveaway of some sort. I don't know what it is yet, but I will enter you in, whether it's a Packers DVD or a book or signed item or something. So if you are listening and still listening and listen to the whole thing, just shoot me an email and let me know.
Go Pack Go.
Go Pack Go. And that is going to wrap it up for this week's episode and for the podcast. Episode 50 is in the books. Thank you all from the bottom of my heart so much for taking the time to listen. Whether you've listened to one or all 50 episodes, really, I can't thank you all enough. It's incredible. It's hard to explain. It's hard to put into words how awesome it is to know that people listen to something that you've worked so hard to put together. When someone randomly messages me that I didn't even know listen to my podcast, that they like X, Y, or Z about the podcast, it's incredible. So thank you all, really. And this podcast wouldn't have been anything without any of the guests that were on. So thank you to all of the guests that we had on. So many, too many to name, but thank you all for taking the time. Truly speechless. It's incredible. If you haven't done so yet, to make sure you're keeping up with future projects, go and like my Facebook page, follow on Instagram, follow on Twitter, add me on Snapchat, subscribe on YouTube. It's the Green Bay Guy for Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube, and the GB Guy on Snapchat. Yeah, I mean, I really don't know what to say to end off on this last one, but thank you all. If you listened throughout the entire episode and you're still listening, just make sure you enter in that giveaway. I don't know what it is yet, but I'm going to try to do something awesome just because I appreciate every one of you. So until next time, until the next project, until we talk next, Go Pack Go.